Back again. Another episode. Right, it feels like a long time since I said that, Pop. I think we've not done a video for like 3 months, 4 months, which is quite a long time. But as you can see, we're in a new studio, new settings. We thought we'd upgrade for everyone. So comment, let us know actually. I might do a little video on the settings, so let me know if you want to see that. How you been? Been good?
I'm here, man. Older. Don't know if I'm wiser. Poorer.
I think that's just the entire world right now. Alright, so listen, I'm going to set it off right. Back again. Another episode of A Muslim and an Atheist Breaks Bread. Same pose. I'm good. That's what I like to hear. So, obviously over the last 3 months, there has been a lot going on. There's still apartheid going on in Palestine. There's still wars going on in Africa. And no, but that's not the only thing that's going on. I had my friend there the other day talking about what's going on in Somaliland. And this is something that I don't really know about. You get me? But he's telling me it's kicking off over there. They're trying to seek independence, but you don't hear about that stuff. So there's wars going on in a lot of different places. There's actually somewhere else in Africa that I'm thinking of where there's a big war going on, but I can't remember where it is. Yeah, Congo. Do you know what it's weird? When we talk about history, because obviously this is essentially a history channel. That's what we're diving into. But when we talk about these things that are going on, like people talking about genocide in Palestine, Russia, Ukraine, yeah? But it always gets relayed back to what the West says the worst massacre ever, which would have been World War II, Hitler and the Jews, yeah? But what I didn't know was, in the space of 2 months in Rwanda, 800,000 people got murdered in 2 months. Now that's unprecedented, isn't it?
Unreported as well.
So that's just crazy in itself. When I was thinking, I was like, right. Imagine that 800,000 people in 2 months. That's catastrophic. But
without
they're
guns,
still there.
800,000 people without use of guns.
Yeah.
Just machetes.
It's like going to Brixton or Tottenham.
Just machetes.
That's crazy, man. So, we are going to be diving into, for the next series, into African history. So, if anybody has any videos or anything that they want us to watch, then please let us know. I know people hate long intros on YouTube. It tells me in the analytics, so I've been talking too long already. Today, we're going to be watching India, plans for World War III. Now, obviously, India have always got this little passer thing with China, innit? India have always had this passer with China.
Being neighbours.
Yeah. But then there's territory, innit? So, let me see if I get this right, if I can remember. So you've got India, who basically, and no disrespect, but this is just the way I see it. India obviously get cheap labour from Nepal. Yeah? So when you go to India, you're going to see a lot of Nepalese people who are quite subservient. The workforce, yeah, they're the workforce. But then you've got China, who are trying to take over Tibet, innit? But India are obviously backing Tibet. Whereas China have got Nepal's back, but then they've also got Pakistan's back because of the way the missile. I can't remember what it's called, but anyway, long thing. We'll find out about it now. Complex. So we're gonna do India master plan for World War III.
Borders. It also has the good luck of having the superior strategic position. This is how India will fight World War III. India's geography makes it, like the United States, in effect a fortress nation. Unlike the United States, though, who...
That's what I was talking about, the geopolitics of it. India in a very strong position due to this, just like the States. But also, I'll tell you a country that's like that, China. China's in a very strong position because you got all that desert land at the top. And Russia. All them countries there.
Everybody's in a strong position.
But some countries you can't penetrate. It's like when the Ottomans tried to go and invade, I think China or Russia. No, China.
When
You
the
gotta get through.
Ottomans, is that what you said? When the Ottomans tried to invade.
Yeah, China, like the top of China's pretty much, you can't, if you're trying to overtake it from there, you just die.
The desert
die in a
condition
slow
make it
death.
hard.
Yeah,
It's possible though.
it's possible. I
Hannibal
don't think
proved anybody can go anywhere they want.
But did he conquer China?
He didn't go to China, he went to Rome.
Yeah, but that's not China then.
He dissolved mountains and did all kinds of things, so there's possibility if you really want to get through, you can.
Okay. We need to look up Hannibal as well. Right, let's jump into it.
Is protected by two vast oceans and a polar ice cap. India's fortress has one gap in its armor. To the north, India faces China, a nation that initially got along with it very well. Both India and China spurred the non-aligned movement, which sought to see their nations avoid being forced into either the American or Soviet camp during the Cold War. However, tensions over an unsettled border dispute in the north and China's drifting toward the Soviet Union soon frayed the relationship. When China invaded Tibet and annexed it in 1950, relations hit an all-time low. Since then, China and India have had three major conflicts, with a full-blown war in 1962, which China technically won. Two standoffs between Indian and Chinese troops occurred in 1967 and 1987, threatening to bring the two nations to war once more. However, in the new millennium, the relationship improved dramatically, until the 2010s, when a series of border disputes once more threatened the tenuous peace. These disputes have grown in intensity, with the most serious occurring in 2020, which left 20 Indian soldiers dead and an unknown number of Chinese dead. A U.S. congressional investigation found that China had planned in advance for the clash, including for the possibility of fatalities. The fact that China once more achieved its goals and pushed Indian control even further back in the region is proof that this was no accident. To the west, India faces its longtime rival Pakistan. The two nations have fought multiple wars over the last 70 years, with India typically coming out victorious over its smaller neighbor. However, Pakistan soon turned to directly funding and equipping terrorists to attack India asymmetrically, with many terror attacks in India.
Quickly, who's got the biggest population, China or India? Is it very
China.
similar? China's the
China's
biggest.
billions in it. India's 100 millions, but China's billions. China's got the
Sure.
biggest. I believe China's got the biggest. It probably will say.
Hopefully it says, but I think they're going to be pretty. They're going to be pretty close. I think.
India's a growing population, whereas China's already gone through its renaissance. And I get its population is trillions. It's definitely the biggest population, which is why they're the greatest threat in terms of manpower.
Yeah.
Typically coming out victorious over its smaller neighbor. However, Pakistan soon turned to directly funding and equipping terrorists to attack India asymmetrically, with many terror attacks in India directly linked to Pakistan's intelligence services. The two nuclear-armed nations remain at tenuous peace today, but Pakistan's realigning toward China has ended India's policy of non-alignment. Realizing it needs friends in this new and much more dangerous world, India has made some very historic moves in drawing closer ties to the United States. Russia has traditionally been India's closest partner from the two powers, but significant failures on Russia's part in developing joint weapon systems such as the Su-57, as well as its significantly reduced position on the world stage, and Russia's own growing ties to China, is working to fracture that relationship. Now, India is interested in potentially acquiring more American weapons and realigning itself closer to the US and its Western allies. India's northern border is thoroughly protected by the Himalayan mountains, which form a nearly impenetrable border against any possible Chinese incursion. China, realizing very early on that it sat on the low end of the strategic high ground, invaded Tibet to both prevent it being used as a staging ground for a potential Indian invasion against it and to secure the headwaters of multiple rivers that are vitally important for the Chinese nation. Since then, China has worked to push Indian control further and further back on its side of the Himalayas, all in a bid to prevent India from having the opportunity to seize plateaus and establish logistical bases from where it could fly in heavy equipment. While China has built its own, India has not, which means India is wholly incapable of using heavy equipment in any conflict against China. India's robust air defense capability also means that while China may have secured the high ground, a southern invasion of India is suicidally impossible. India has little to fear from a ground war with China. though China's forward position in the heights does mean it'll certainly lose what little control it has left over the Himalayan region. India's biggest concern is its western border with Pakistan. Pakistan has typically suffered great losses in its clashes with India over the years, and today India is an exponentially more capable military power than Pakistan. A modern conflict between the two nations would inevitably be to India's favor, and with such overwhelming military power, it could threaten the Pakistani national government itself. This is why Pakistan has flat out stated it would be willing to use nuclear weapons to defend itself in a future war, putting India in a very difficult position. To counter this threat, or at least limit its effectiveness, India has developed a deep strike doctrine, wherein Indian forces concentrate power in a small area of the front to achieve a deep, penetrating offensive into Pakistan itself. This would place Indian forces inside Pakistani territory and force it to use nuclear weapons on its own soil if it wishes to use them at all. A bigger threat to India would be a conventional war between itself, China, and inevitably Pakistan, with the basing of Chinese troops in Pakistan itself. With no fear of invasion of its own territory, China is free to use its ground forces well outside of China, and with the Chinese military on the whole superior to India's own, India would face a significant threat if the two powers joined together for a major offensive. This is unlikely, though not impossible, and would inevitably draw in other powers such as the India's biggest problem is its lack of a native arms industry, as well as the hodgepodge nature of its current military hardware. As an unaligned state, India has been very opportunistic and chosen to arm itself with what it considered the weapons that suited its needs best, from both the West and the former Soviet Union, now Russia. However, this has left it in the unique position of not having particularly deep defensive ties to either of them. And it's the reason why India today is not a partner with any nation that fields modern 5th-generation fighters. If you're likely to deal with someone's potential rival, nobody's going to invite you to share their best hardware, except Russia, which was cash-strapped and turned to India to finance its Su-57. Unfortunately for both sides, India pulled out of joint development when it was clear the Su-57 would never meet its projected goals and would be far outclassed by American and even Chinese 5th-generation fighters. Without a native arms industry, India is naturally reliant on foreign suppliers, which is tricky when those suppliers end up at each other's throats. Today, India is taking steps to attempt to kickstart a native defense industry, but it's waking up to the reality that unless it picks a side, and fast, it's going to be left behind technologically.
Why is it so hard to develop weapons? Like, if you're in India, and India, you know, is quite technically advanced in parts, you'd think, you know, they've got nukes. Why can't they develop
They are
weapons?
developing, that's their biggest industry, their weapons exports, and they're selling ships and planes and all sorts now.
Yeah, but why? So why aren't they making, like, why do they need Russian?
No, at the time they needed Russia. I think
Okay.
this is a whole video. India now is second, third biggest arms dealer on the planet.
Really? Okay. So I'm just thinking,
Demise
like,
of
okay.
Russia.
Listen, it's always good to have allies, isn't it? That's what someone told me from very young. It's better to have allies than enemies. But in the same vein, like, why? So, like, yeah, I was just thinking, why would India need that? They've got the manpower for like ground incursion, if that needs to happen. So the technology they're talking about trying to get these planes. Listen, no one's ever going to beat America's army though, are they? Because the amount of money America pumps into its defense is a joke. But India should be like knocking on that door.
It's technology versus numbers, and really, because India and China boast population. America's not a population thing. What they're trying to do is make sure the wars are always in your country, not in our country. We'll fight you, but we're going to be waiting for you in your country. So the strategy that he was talking about, someone sending the Indian soldiers into Pakistan so that Pakistan will nuke itself, is stupid, because they're going to nuke your population. Why would they nuke itself? The rules of war have changed, particularly with this Israel thing. They kill people now. A few weeks ago, people believed America when they said there was a rule and rules of engagement. No one believes that now. So anything happens like that, Pakistan's nuking India, not itself. That would be the a dumb idea on the Indian part. But first and foremost, me say, it's hard to nuke your cousins. They're cousins, man. Pakistan and India are the same country, so only since 1948.
100%.
brothers are
Yeah,
calling.
I
So
get
to
that.
me,
Yeah, definitely.
I'm gonna stay here and watch a man deal with my brother bad just because it's my brother and he's got to deal with these things. But only for so far before, whoa, there's a principle. You understand?
Do you think that, though? Because listen, you say that, but if we're going back to gang reference, yeah, and the gangs, when you're not being raised, like, it's all right to be like cold blood, ain't it? But you can let a man who you think is your brother because you've been raised in this gang with him violate your blood. So it comes a point where your gang becomes more important than your blood, innit? So I think Indians and Pakistanis, whether they go to war, I don't know. Like, I mean, out and out nuclear bombing, or they're gonna let China. But I think Pakistan would definitely jump on China's side and start killing Indians, essentially. You don't think so? You don't think it would happen?
Too many blood ties, man.
Yeah, but they don't see it like that, though. We see it like that,
I mean,
but
politicians
they
don't see it like that, and it's propaganda and politics, and religion is, a construct in all these countries. So,
Yeah.
if the people can get past that to the humanity, then they know it's their cousins and they're this and that.
All right, listen, just for anyone who's watching this video, if you're a Pakistani and you've got family in India who are Indians, yeah, I want to know your opinion. Or if you're an Indian, vice versa, and you've got family in Pakistan, which clearly there will be. What are your thoughts on this? Are blood ties more important than your
Nationalism.
nationalism? Exactly that. For me, blood ties are gonna win over every time, 100%. That's just the way I'm built. I didn't have to like some of my cousins, but I still got them.
This is why India has been slowly shaking off its non-aligned status and moving closer to the United States, much to the chagrin of China. Famously, India's attempt to build a domestic tank, the Arjun, was not only decades behind schedule, but ended up forcing the Indian government to class.
I do want to know the timelines on this because it seems like there's a lot of dodgy equipment being built in India. That's all it is. First, I tried to build that plane and it was just like, this ain't gonna run. I want to know why, though. I don't get it. I don't get why one country can build something like that's just so far advanced than the other. It's crazy to me.
Isn't it, like I said, everyone builds from the template after the originator makes it. So America patents and you can get this and build whatever you want. But in the same way, you can't have a car manufacturers without electricity. You can't have certain things without certain rudimental things. And America keeps these people. How do you get sustainable electricity? I mean, India might be all electric now, but again, I'm going to assume that's a recent thing as well. Progress is happening everywhere else, while America, the assumption is that it's progressive, whereas homelessness and everything in America is rife. But they always present America as heaven. America this, America that. The reality is America is not like that, but they do have technological superiority because after the war, where did all the scientists disappear to and get citizenship?
Yeah, of course.
The space program.
You know what it is as well, like you say, it's engineering, isn't it? You're always going to have people who are at the top of engineering.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of like, it's not kind of like it at all, but in the same vein, it's like me saying, when I say I don't understand, I do understand, because it's almost like F1 driving, isn't it? Everyone's got the same pot of money to spend on building a car, but it all comes down to who's your engineers. So what do you think is gonna push that car that extra mile? So you could just have a bad year, and then you're 2-3 years behind the competition. So yeah, I get it. But really now, everyone should just be like, it should just be drone attacks. I don't know why. Tanks and things. Them things there are really redundant.
Remember,
surely they'll be redundant
Britain
in World War III.
used to be a superpower. Now, you don't even hear Britain. Look, we're talking America, this, America, India, Pakistan. Did we mention Britain at all? Because Britain ain't even perceived as a superpower.
well,
Technologically, they're advanced.
Yes, and listen, I still think Britain do have power and influence. However, one, they don't have an army. Their army couldn't even fill Aston Villa Stadium. That's crazy when you think about it. Your whole army can't even fill a football stadium.
You don't need an army if America's your army.
But yeah, so then there's that. But nowadays, do you need an army full stop? If I know I can just go and send a drone, I could even go send a drone, drop off. Have you seen them robot dogs? And the robots that we got now?
That's tomorrow's war, innit?
What do I need people for?
That's tomorrow's war.
But that will be World War III. Essentially, World War III is just going to be drone strikes. Because if you don't have to send your people there, unless you're trying to do it like America do it, like you said, and go, we're coming here to free everyone. And,
Hegemony.
We're coming to spread the word of democracy. So why
American.
Why
They forgot
implant?
democracy. We come into rule now. Democracy's out.
Yeah, so this is what I'm saying. We're under the guise of democracy. So unless you're doing that, right?
It's not democratic. The WHO hasn't tried to become democratic. They've tried to take the power of all the governments, so unelected people have say and can do anything above the governments. That's the WHO. All 100 and 200 countries, whatever they are, who have signed up to this thing that they're trying to run through.
What's that? I don't know what this is. What thing?
You know that WHO, that health organization thing.
Oh
the
yeah,
World
the
Health
what? Yeah.
Organization. So
the WHO.
technically, they will be in charge of policy,
Yeah. So it's Bill
By
Gates.
some-
Bill Gates and them.
which means, nothing is going through the government's door anymore. So the let me say, governments are not really leading at the moment, and the coronavirus thing proved that.
Governments haven't led for years though. It's always been corporation, and that's like industrialization
I
stuff.
think it's been increasing, and now it's gone past that. innit?
Industrialization and capitalism sort of that. As soon as companies realized their leverage,
They use
what they had, they were like, well, actually, we can pick who goes into government, or we can stop legislation, and we can do that. That's gone on. That's been going on for years. hasn't it?
Yeah, well, the sheeple who normally vote and are asleep, waking up to these stupidness, which is why there has to be a change in it. The whole thing. But
Listen, the only change there it should be is proportional representation.
it can't be
Not first
because
past the post.
demographics have changed in all the countries. Look what's happening now. Like I says, Britain has an Indian leadership. Great Britain, right? Would you argue?
Well,
Rishi,
yeah,
fully
Rishi,
Indian. My girl and everybody else.
Wow.
So
They're brown. I don't know
like
if
I
they're
say,
Indian.
the colonialization has brought it home, and those people are effectively behaving like the British people are behaving now. So India, with its influence, world power, leadership all around the world, people in strategic places, whereas the Chinese, who pay, finance, and import Confucianism, are kind of frowned upon with their approach to it. So the Indian way is more subtle and is working better. Their technology, what do you call that, silicon chip industry. India's massive in that, the tele industry and all these things, the growth industries in these countries. So that is perpetuating the country forward. They've bought all of British steel making, car manufacturing, satellites in space. They're doing things that lead countries do, whilst the whole country hasn't become modernized and cities and a utopia like the idea of Europe. They're still technologically moving forward, which to me is a good
100%.
way.
But like, I mean, we've done videos on India where we've looked at that and how the country's modernising and at the pace it's modernising. But it's such a big place. Like, you have to expect it. Like, people like, it's like you were just saying, like, not the whole of India. But that's like Africa. Like, when you speak to people about Africa, like, if you ask someone about Africa, they're gonna be like, it's poor. Like, from here, unless you know, people are just gonna see. People are still thinking of them.
Tarzan.
No, Tarzan. What's it called? Them them charity. Remember when you used to watch TV and there
Red
were
Cross
some
and
African
them
people on the TV and they were just look poor
Biafra.
and on their knees.
Biafra is
Yeah,
what
yeah,
you're talking about. The famines.
But then you go there,
feed
like
the world.
yeah, exactly. Well, that world, what's it called? When they did that rock concert and that
I
team
can't
there.
even remember. Feed the world thing, man. Michael
But yeah,
Jackson and all
anyway.
that.
So people are thinking of that. But then you
Live
got
Aid.
Live Aid. That's it. But then like I know people are going to like Nigeria and these places and they're like, bro, if you go there, I've never been. I want to go. They're like, yo, it's like Metropolis, bro. It's not like you're thinking of some shanty town.
Television.
Yeah, you're thinking of some
Logically,
shanty
this
town.
is why India has been
Not
slowly
like that,
shaking
like you
off
go
its
there,
non-aligned
big
status
cities,
and moving closer to the
skyscrapers,
United
like,
States, much to the chagrin of China.
New York.
Famously, India's attempt to build a domestic tank, the Arjun, was not
yeah,
only
this
decades
is what I'm
behind
saying.
schedule, but ended up
yeah,
forcing
so
the Indian government to buy a small fleet of tanks in 2013. By 2015, almost the entire fleet was inoperable. India does not lack the intellectual capital or manufacturing capabilities, but it does lack the expertise and the highly specialized and often classified knowledge of renowned global arms manufacturers such as Russia, France, Germany, and the United States. Modern weapons are built on a foundation of decades of research and development, trial and experimentation, and direct battlefield observations, all of which India lacks and can't simply be kickstarted overnight. However, India has one significant strategic advantage over both Pakistan and China, specifically over China, and that's its navy. The Indian Navy operates a fleet of mostly modern ships, and it's the second most powerful in Asia. However, the Indian Navy has one significant advantage over China. It is fully capable of over-the-horizon blue water operations, meaning it can operate far from its own shores. This is a capability that China struggles with due to its limited fleet logistics and a lack of aircraft carriers. Today, India fields 2 aircraft carriers, 11 destroyers, 13 frigates, 1 ballistic missile submarine for nuclear deterrence, and 16 conventional attack submarines. This allows
So this is what I'm talking about. I think there's a myth. Not a myth, but I think when you think about armies and things, like if you said to me like, oh, India, they have a force in the sea, they've got 2 aircraft carriers. So to me that doesn't seem like a lot. So when you're playing like Command and Conquer and them things there, you build them things in like 2 days. You get like a unrealistic expectation of what armies have and do. Because to me, I don't know, man, you might think that sounds like a lot, but they got 1 submarine. That's crazy. Or 1 type of submarine, and then I think that one carries nukes in it. So
It's
they got
costs
1
in it of maintaining and keeping it.
Yeah,
So
this is what I mean.
buying it and keeping it active, like Britain's Trident
Yeah, you've
and
gotta
all that
keep
stuff.
it
They've kept it in the
going.
water all them years, and
yeah,
that's where the real cost, all the money disappears into the black hole. So with India, like us, you know, they're not really a war nation, are they? But they're building towards the knowledge of how to be an arms
But
dealer.
they're building to protect themselves, I feel
I
like.
think they're just building to make money, selling products, commodities India sells. It's always spices and stuff. It's not a war nation, really. It's looking to sell stuff now. The new thing that's selling big is
Weapons.
arms.
allows India to project significant power where it matters most, in the Indian Ocean. Its navy allows India to effectively shut down Pakistan's coastal trade, but it's even more important for one key reason. It allows India to hold a dagger to China's throat. With its navy able to project power deep into the Indian Ocean, India is able to almost completely shut down China's seaborne trade, of which it's heavily reliant on for its oil and gas consumption, as well as its economy. With 2 aircraft carriers and multiple choke points in the Malacca Straits and off of Indonesia's waters, the Indian Navy can bring China's imports to an almost complete standstill. China recognizes this, which is why it's been quickly working to develop its own aircraft carriers. Inevitably, the balance of power will shift toward China, with its ability to field a much larger force and more modern weapons, but this is still decades away. Even then, India enjoys one advantage China does not, and that is its growing relationship with the United States. Many Indians favored continued non-alignment, preferring to keep India out of the world's conflicts. However, this is no longer a possibility, given China's rapid ascension and expansionist ambitions. As the world's largest democracy, India poses an existential threat to China's Communist Party, who is working to export its model of authoritarianism abroad in a bid for self-survival. China has already helped many regional despotic powers with tracking and surveillance technology, for instance, in a bid to keep tabs on their citizenry. China is also aiming to establish a global monopoly on technology itself. Every year, China poses a greater and greater threat to Taiwan, and while many Indians might consider this a domestic dispute, the truth is far from it. Taiwan is not just a friendly democracy sitting off the CCP's shores, but also the supplier of almost the world's entire demand for microelectronics. The Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, or TSMC, supplies the world with nearly its entire supply of modern microchips, absolutely integral for any economy. Its 5mm manufacturing process produces the smallest, most advanced microchips in the world, without which modern weapons as well as modern consumer electronics are impossible. If China were to take Taiwan, it would do so along with its manufacturing and intellectual capabilities, leaving China with global hegemony over the microchip supply and holding it hostage to the CCP and its goals. Anyone who disagrees with the CCP might simply face an export ban, crippling their economy. This will give China incredible leverage over India that would take decades to overcome. While TSMC is building a modern manufacturing facility in America to help offset this massive strategic vulnerability, it's refusing to allow for construction of its new 3nm microchips anywhere outside of Taiwan. This is an insurance policy to help ensure that the global community remains vested in Taiwan's independence, but once more poses a significant vulnerability should China take Taiwan by force. If India is going to continue to thrive in the 21st century, its days of non-alignment have to end. Otherwise, it could simply find itself waging a losing Third World War against a technologically superior opponent, or simply forced into submission by its regional rival, China. Now, go check out India versus China, who would win, or click this other video instead.
That last statement, or it would be facing a third world war. We're talking about India and China. How does they get to it? It's America and England that initiate world wars. Who's going to respond? India's at war. Calling all the brothers home. Who's going? Nobody aren't going nowhere. You understand? That would be the same, like I said.
The thing is, though, America would have to get involved, wouldn't it?
America's involved all the way through.
But
so
this
yes.
is what I'm trying to say. So if
Right.
if China attacks,
they're all dependent on Taiwan is the reality. So nothing's happening to Taiwan. China needs it to do its tech. America needs it to do its tech. But it's Chinese people living in Taiwan. So therein lies the problem. America says, we'll support you and back you and you can be autonomous. But it's Chinese people still. So this is what I say. At some point, the blood will come ahead of the business. But right now, everybody needs that technological. You can't have a technological army without technological. Silicon Valley fell off the...
Yeah, but they're not Chinese, are they? They're Taiwanese.
No, they're nationalist Taiwanese, but ethnic Chinese, aren't they? That's why China says it wants to reclaim them back. Because when they all fled... the government thing, when this government came in, they went to Taiwan to set up their own state, and then the government let them, and they grew, and America came in, and
I see.
but it's Chinese people.
Yeah. So essentially, the World War III. This is the thing. Like, this is what I'm saying about allies, and once you start signing these treaties, like, it's vested interest for America to not let China take Taiwan in it, obviously. Especially as they're building them computer chips there.
Yes, but for me, it's vested interest for America to poke its nose into Chinese business personally, because Taiwan is China to me. It's Chinese territory. It's Chinese people. But
Yes,
because of the resource,
that's what I'm saying, isn't it? So
America won't let anything happen. But again, that's Africa. Anywhere that there's a cobalt or anything like that, you will find American air bases defending American interests.
So that's how it quickly becomes a world war, though, isn't it? Because as soon as America get involved, you're going to have countries like, whether Pakistan would choose to get involved, I don't know. They might just look at it as a losing battle. Because if they can't really fight India, if China start, let's say America get backed by India to go against China.
India's not in no war. It's not there on nobody.
Yeah, they're trying not to be. That's what they're saying. They're trying not to be. But there's going to be a cost. When you deal with the devil, there's a cost, isn't it? So there's going to be a cost to India for them to get arms off America.
Oh,
For them to forge that relationship.
Well,
so that might be, you
America
know, like...
is manipulating the way it does.
Yeah,
because
exactly. That's what I'm saying.
America sees, like I said, American interests only. Everybody else is irrelevant. India, like I said, personally, with Soviet Union, America negotiated with them and they says, all right, yeah, let's kick it to the curb to show you that we don't want this thing no more. We want a peaceful world.
Yeah.
They got rid of Soviet Union. America moves into Ukraine. You know, yesterday we said we're not going to do it if you get rid of Soviet Union. The next day we're there saying, yeah, so this game is being played by lots of people. But in terms of
Well, they needed
economics,
that, didn't they? They needed that the same way that...
India can't really
China
afford a
told.
war because war can take them like Syria, where America knocks people back to the Stone Age. They don't fight and kill your people. They completely rubble your country.
Destabilize you, just completely,
so-
just lock you.
And that would happen in India, despite where it's coming from.
Yeah, but this is what I'm saying, isn't it? So India would align with America.
It's America that would do it to America, or China would do it to India. I don't think India's got the capability to do it. That's why Pakistan and India war is a distraction. Pakistan and India ain't fighting no war. It's just the biggies. China is not an aggressive country. It tries to
Keep itself within itself.
mediate and go for some sort of advocate role and thing. You understand? America is straight
Warmongers.
right, and no going around. That's what it is. You know, Britain, Boris Johnson's last act was to initiate the Israel Palestine war.
Don't you think it's weird that, like, you know, talk about, again, going back to America, like, everyone loves, what's his name? Barack Obama.
Okay.
But he dropped more bombs than any other president.
Yeah,
in
he's the
American
most
history, like,
wickedest president of all time, Barack.
yeah, like, he's meant to have done some... It's just weird, isn't it? Because I was watching this thing on Donald Trump the other day. Not that I like Trump, but they was comparing their records, and I was saying, all right, if you actually don't listen to what Trump says, and you look at what they've done, like, if I told you one done this, one done that, who's done what? And like, all the worst things, really, were Obama. I mean, they didn't say the good things. They were basing it on the worst things, though, so it's quite easy. Like, they didn't say, like, Obama brought in healthcare. Trump just tried to destroy it and rename it and all that, so that's different. But anyway, do we think there's going to be a World War III?
Well, someone's pushing for it. They're certainly using the language, but I don't really know what World War is in the first place, because I'm going to go back to my mum. You know, World War One and Two, man was on the beach in Jamaica. They didn't see no war like that, even though they came for Jamaicans to go.
Jamaicans were in the war,
Yeah, because they're British citizens, innit?
Yeah, so it's a world war.
England ain't got nobody to send to war. They occupy countries and send their people to fight
So
for
it makes
their
it a world war,
opinion.
innit? If you think, alright, when we say world war, if you think, so who's involved in this war? There's France, Russia, Germany, Japan.
In terms of what do you mean, in which war?
In
In the premise of a coming war. World War Two.
Well, these are the countries that were fighting
Okay,
actively in World War Two.
Okay.
So you got France, Germany, the Dutch. What was I just saying?
All the countries with royal
Japan.
families.
Yeah, essentially, but we all know that the First World War started from the royals as well, and it's always the royal families.
All the
that
countries
start
with royal families. They
No, but
organize wars.
America's got a royal family, and Russia. Russia didn't have a royal family in World War Two. They had one in World
Britain
War One.
is
Because that was Rasputin and them, innit?
Britain and Russia are different. Them under some treaty business. They can only have to be. The kingship is like what's that? It's a different thing to presidency. America can't have a king.
Yeah, because they're independent. They're a Republican.
Because it written in when them constituted, America can't
Yeah,
have
but that's
a
what I'm saying.
king.
Yeah, but that's because of how they got constituted. Because it's
and it
because
can't
they
change, it
became a
won't
republic.
change.
Because their king essentially would be England, like whoever's the head of state here. So the whole point in them going independent was because they didn't want one. So they can't say then,
Well,
we're
they
going to
wanted
have a
to
new one.
present themselves as if they didn't, because who won the Federal Reserve? So Britain's day represented at the key place at the table all the way through, but in terms of constitution and construct for the organizers, they decided to play a different card with America. And America's supposed to be like France, a republic, ain't it?
Yeah.
Realistically. So
No, but France is a bit different because France does have a monarch. I don't know how much power they've got.
didn't they kill them off in France?
No, I'm sure France has still got a monarch. I don't know if...
I've never heard of the King of France.
I don't think you do, you know.
I think I always hear about my
Hold on,
ways
maybe
when the
I'm wrong,
president.
maybe I'm wrong,
France
hold
still
on.
got one. I know a couple of them still got them.
Monarch.
I'm sure they
I
killed
know
the
Holland
French ones.
have.
Dutch have.
Yeah,
young
the
one,
Dutch
innit?
have. Maybe I'm getting it confused with the Dutch.
A couple of them survived, but in the main, like I say, they've reduced that burden on
No,
the
okay,
people.
so the monarch in France, the last one was like Napoleon, it says.
The Republic, yeah, him was the emperor.
Overthrown during the Franco-Prussian, so the Russian thing, innit? Yeah. Does France still have a monarch?
So when them lose in war, them
Nah,
take away
they
that
don't.
right from them.
Yeah.
So Napoleon was a big man till Waterloo, then no more kings in France. And then it's Illuminati business, and they got these secret societies running these things, man.
Yeah. All right, then, listen. We're going to bounce with that. So,
World War Three.
World War III in India. Is there going to be one? We don't know. Let us know if you want us to watch any more on India doing World War III, or if you have any suggestions, shout us on Instagram, shout us on... Go onto the website, Making Change Studios. Everything, man. Just Making Change Studios, Instagram. Like, comment, subscribe. We out. Peace.
Peace.